Hey folks, what's up? It's Antonio. Obviously, it's me. It's me. You see my name right there. Why do I keep introducing myself before I even do the opening? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, folks, so it is a Friday. It is late. Well, not late night. So average. It's like middle of the night. It's not middle of the night. What am I talking about? I don't know. It's been a long week, folks. But you know what? We're here. It's Friday. We're gonna have some fun. We have writer, editor, show host, all around cool person, Robert Jeffrey. You may have seen him. He's been here on the Hungry Bleak channel with TBA News, absolutely killing it every episode, and also still out here writing incredible things. Video games, comics. The man writes in his alphabet soup. I bet if you look through his bowls of soup, you will see like these incredible short stories in there. He doesn't stop. He does not stop, which is awesome. So he's going to be on today's show. So are y'all ready to have some fun? Because we're going to talk about a really cool project he's got going on, STEM superheroes, and we're going to talk a little bit about some other things he else has got going. See what he's watching, see what he's reading. I love knowing what people are checking up as far as content and everything, and what's making them smile. So are y'all ready? You're ready. You are. All right, then let's go. Hey, folks, what's up? Now I should introduce myself. Unbelievable. Folks, I am Antonio Pomares, aka The Hungry Bleak, and welcome to The Hungry Bleak Show here on The Hungry Bleak channel. That's a lot of Hungry Bleaks in a row, but whatever. So today we've got a great guest. We've got Robert Jeffrey. We're going to get him on in a second, but y'all know what it is. I got to talk to you. All right. So let's get into it. How was your week? Okay, I know the weather's been kind of crazy, kind of choppy, what have you. That's the way the world is. I mean, we've all ruined the environment. We can't really be mad about that now, honestly. We'll be okay once, like, Skynet takes over and they start regulating the environment. We'll be all right. How's work? I know. But like I always say, do what you got to do today so you can do what you want to do tomorrow. Also, you need lights and a roof over your head and food and clothes and water and soap. You need all that stuff. You need all that stuff. So do what you got to do today so you can do what you want to do tomorrow. That's my thought process on it. How are your friends? How are your loved ones? I know. They do things like that sometimes. Sometimes they be talking to you like that. But got to remember the loved ones for a reason. Yeah, we have those rough patches every so often, but they're still in the heart and we still love them. Right? Right. Okay. Now, about you. Did you drink water? Did you eat? Did you take your vitamins? Did you take your meds? I'm not trying to please you. I just want to make sure that you're being the best you that you can be. So whether your meds are for a physical, mental, or emotional ailment, I want you to be the best you that you can be. So that's why I ask, because I want you to take care of you. An empty cup cannot pour into another empty cup. I think it's an empty pitcher into a cup. I think I've ruined that whole metaphor, but you get what I'm saying. If you have nothing, if you are not full, you cannot help to pour into someone else. You can't. Don't do it. It's very dangerous. So make sure that you're good. Make sure that you're squared away. Make sure that you're 5 by 5. All right. Okay. So it's Friday. Going to have some fun. Going to have one of my. I've introduced this man. I don't know how many times, and I never get tired of it. So he is a writer. He is an editor. He is a show host. Excuse me. He is an aficionado on space operas. If I was actually to have looked for someone to create a whole like Rebel Moon world, I would have asked Robert Jeffrey. You give him space, and he's going to give you something that's going to knock your socks off. If you're not wearing socks, it'll knock your flip flops off or something. I don't know. Whatever's on your feet, he's going to knock off. Um, just an incredible writer. I love his work, no matter what it's written. One of my favorite comics is Mind to Avenge, which is him basically picking in my brain, seeing what I like, and just putting it on paper. And I was like, bet this is what I love. Folks, I don't know what else I can say about this gentleman, Robert Jeffrey.
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's going on, sir? How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
All right,
I'm
all
glad
right.
it's Friday. How about you?
Look, man, I already told you about my tea
Yeah.
story today. I ain't got nothing else tonight, man. That's it. That's it, man. I ain't got
Nothing
nothing
else
else,
to add. Nothing else to add. I got it. I
But I
got it.
gotta look at it like this. If that was the worst thing I can do today, the day wasn't so bad. I'm gonna look at it like that.
Exactly.
If I was about to make some Honey Nut Cheerios tea, don't ask, folks. Don't ask. Then I would have drank it, been angry, but I'd drink it because I don't want to waste any of my cereal. So, sir, you have so much going on. First off, thank you very much for being here. I always appreciate your time. This is our second time being on screen this week.
Yeah.
Between
Y'all go watch that up fronts episode.
yes,
Yeah.
I always have the best time with those episodes, and it's really because of you and Jabba. Just
Yeah.
like you guys are saving graces, truthfully, with that, man. I absolutely love doing. I wish we could do those shows like more because they're just so much fun, and I truly enjoy them.
Yeah.
You do so much, and you wear so many hats. In these creative spaces, and now you have this project which I was reading, and I was thrown through a loop at first. I didn't know what I was going to be getting. I was like, let me just go in this cold. I trust Robert, obviously, so let me just go in this cold. And I was reading, and I was like, oh, it's a fantasy. Then I said, oh wait, no, it's sci-fi. And I was like, oh wait, no, all that's a lie. Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on. And but I had a great time with it, and it is STEM Heroes. So what can you tell us about this?
So, Steam Heroes, it's a comic book that it's about, let's say, it's a book that we call it, I say edutainment. So it's a book that features the board members of a nonprofit, a real world nonprofit called Steam Superheroes. And the goal of within the comic book is that these different scientists from their respective backgrounds of computer security, engineering, astrophysics, and biology, and they use their smarts to save the day from an evil billionaire. So it's an opportunity for, and it kind of align and not it kind of it aligns with the goal of the organization, which is to teach students, teens and college students and kids that you can you can pursue a variety of careers within the sciences and use those abilities, or your knowledge or your background or your education within any of these fields to essentially help the world, to save the world. So in the comic book, we are literally having them save the world, but also it gives an opportunity once again for us to highlight the contributions that these four individuals make, once again in their respective fields. So it's like life imitating art, or art imitating life in a way. But it's the big thing is that we wanted to just make learning fun, for whoever picks this book up, but also, as you can see with the diverse cast that we have of characters, that anybody can, once again, pursue a career in any aspect of STEAM. So I think that's like science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. So it's that's kind of what we were going for. And then you learn something, but also, like you said, you get some action, and adventure in there. And it seems like people have been receptive, to kind of what we're putting out there for them.
What I loved about this is that it has that Saturday morning cartoon feel. Y'all
Mhm.
already know when I say Saturday morning cartoon feel, y'all know that I really enjoy whatever it was that I'm reading or watching, and that's very important to me. How you giving this like the actual cartoon, and it has a story, but you're also incorporating those very important things in there.
Yeah.
And you're having characters from different backgrounds, like you're saying, but also not just different backgrounds, but different things as far as like one character has diabetes,
Hmm.
and another character is neurodivergent.
Yeah.
So even having things like that were very important because it wasn't even the character didn't even bring it up. It was Swati. I
Yeah.
hope I'm saying that
Swati.
Swati.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Swati actually brought it up because she was actually concerned about her team because that's a
Hmm.
team,
Yeah.
and she was asking, "Want to make sure you're all good, you're all rested, whatever they,
Hmm.
how is it?" So that was very important to me that the leader actually brought it up and asked how you're doing.
Yeah.
That was a very important thing to me, and I loved it. And then seeing Ron actually talk about being neurodivergent as being one of the things that people would kind of ostracize him for,
Hmm.
you know, like even that. So little details like that I found again were very important. And if we had cartoons like this when I was a kid, even though like we had some that were, we had ones that had messages like GI Joe, well,
Yeah.
now knowing is half the battle, and He-Man, they had like those little PSAs at the end of episodes. But having an entire episode where you can see characters like that and telling that, oh, I'm different, but that doesn't mean that I can't do incredible, great, I mean, just awesome things,
Yeah.
was very important to me. Um, like I said, as a kid, this would have been the world to me. I would have been every Saturday morning, pancakes, crispy edges,
Yeah.
still in my PJs. Let's get it going. I mean, what are the Steam superheroes up to this week?
I love it.
Um, which is awesome to me. How did you come up with these characters?
So one of the things that I say is that this was a team effort with bringing all of this together. So and to answer that, I'll give a little bit of background on kind of how I came on to the project. So I had worked with the artist and I guess you would say our art director. His name is Ben Herrera. And he's a comic book artist who has credits going back to Marvel Comics. So I'd worked with him when I was at Blowfish Studios, and where we had both worked together on the Phantom Galaxies comic book series. So when last year he reached out and said, "Hey, would you be interested in working on a project? We're coming on a project." And I was like, "Yeah, Ben, I enjoyed my time working with Ben when I was at Blowfish, and it's always good to know that when people see what you can bring to a project, they'll be like, yo, let's get him for the job." So that was great because I needed the work, which was great. So just being real. So it was cool. So Ben brought me on, and what it was is the team, and they're led by, and I want to definitely give a shout out to, make sure I get her last name right, Linda Zaruches. She's the president and board member of Steam Superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spoke with Linda, and she had this kind of they have this general idea of creating a superhero team of featuring their board members. And so as far as the characters or the I think that's what your question was, is that we already had them there. We have these four members, these board members. So what we did was we pulled from their backgrounds in their respective fields of science. In addition to, if you check the bios underneath the characters, we build bios based on their own experiences with, adding in kind of like some, kind of fictional stuff that would fit within the framework of this world that we're building. So, and then we try to gear their, the super abilities, at least when they're in the VR,
Right.
side of things. I think I got a chance to kind of play around with that, which was really cool. But when you see them represented, so that's how we built the characters, right? We had templates to build off of because these people exist and they're superheroes in their own right, and Grace Nichelle, who is also a part of the board from Steam Superheroes, I guess you could say cast her or had her appear. She's in our book as, and she's the ambassador board member for the real world Steam Superheroes. But we cast her as the head of the Nexus, trying to get the full name of the organization, but the organization or the think tank where the Steam Superheroes work. So Grace and Nichelle. So, and as far as what they do to kind of save the day, once again, we're just pulling from their background. So everybody is an essential part of whatever mission they go on, and their backgrounds as far as, where they, their various fields within the sciences. We tried to highlight that as much as possible so that, everybody could get that shine time, but then also people could learn about their backgrounds and, what these, these extraordinary people do. So, but yeah, that's kind of how we, built the characters and just built from there.
That's incredible because I hadn't actually looked at the team. I thought like when it said team actually on here that it was just going to be talking about the characters. I didn't realize that these were actually legitimately actual people,
Yep.
which, like you're saying, just adds more to it because it shows, hey, this is yes, this is a comics version of this person.
Yeah.
But no, they're actually doing these actual things in real life, which just adds more gravitas and just adds more to it, saying,
yeah,
it doesn't just happen in comics, it happens in real life. So please, if you feel like you want to learn more about space, or you want to learn more about astrophysics, you want to learn more about black holes, you want to learn more about microbiology, go into it.
Yeah.
That field is there for you. We could use it. Honestly, and so that's actually a very important and beautiful thing. Like I said, as I'm looking through and I'm saying, okay, and then I saw the name and I said, wait, that's the name. That's actually, I was like, okay.
Exactly.
And then as I kept scrolling, I'm going, okay, that makes it even better for me, honestly, because that adds, like I said, that gravitas and it brings it back more down to reality, in a sense. Because like I said, when I started, I thought I was going to get a fantasy book. Then it turned into sci-fi. I was like, okay, maybe it's multi-dimensional. I know Robert loves some interdimensional stuff.
Yeah.
I know that sliders all day. I realized that. I'm not okay. Going to roll with it. Then I saw the VR. I said, oh, okay. Then when it got into it and they were talking about the projects and they were, and then you had that evil foil in there, which I loved as well. Snapping at his assistant, and I was like, okay, cool. And it felt it felt so good to read that, first off because it was something that was educational, then it was also entertaining, but then also it was just something that I don't normally read. So when I have a chance to read something different that I don't normally read, it helps to enrich me. It makes my mind work a little bit more, bring something out. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you, man.
Do you think, I mean, look, and also it has your name on it. So if it has your name on it, I'm definitely trusting you. You know what I mean? Like, it could be the most wild of, hey, man, I got this book about XYZ. And I'm like, I mean, I saw Robert's name on, so I trust him. I'm going to read it. I don't know how far we're going to go with this, but I trust it with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, this launched in April, I want to say.
Yeah, April at AwesomeCon. It was released at AwesomeCon.
And are there any plans of doing more of the issues like this, or was this just a one shot?
I'm working on the script right now. So like, I mean, like, we're on the outline stage, so outline, and then I'll start on the script within a couple of weeks. So yeah, so they announced it on their social media feed like last week. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I could say something about it. But I was happy because so we're moving ahead with the second issue. And it's going to be, even more fun. You're going to learn more stuff, and you're going to have more, chances to hang out with the team. So yeah, we're moving full steam ahead. One thing I did want to say was like about the opening was, one of the cool things is that we got feedback from different different arenas about like what would people who were like scientists or within this field, want to see reflected in the book somewhat. And one of the things that we learned was like, how do people who are in these various industries or fields where it's very taxing, like mentally and sometimes physically, like how do they chill, right? How do they get downtime? And one of the things I was just like, well, we got a bunch of they're geeks, like we're a team of geeks, right? And what would be the best way for them to kind of unwind? So I have this idea of like, one of the things I've been told is like, if the book calls for it, start with something that's going to draw the reader in. So if it calls for action, let's do that. So apparently it got a little confusing going from one genre to the other, but it was this idea that I had of, taking that idea of, how do they chill in their off time? And, everybody loves virtual reality. So, that's why we go from like the fantasy world, which for me was like amazing, an awesome opportunity to do that, and then go to the superheroics. And like I'm more familiar with like the superhero world, but to open up with like this like Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time,
Yes.
action opening, I was just like, okay, I don't know when I'll get another chance to do this, so might as well try it now. So, but yeah, it was one of my favorite parts to write. But then when Ben and the team, and I'm going to give like the shout out to the team of on the colors we have Emmanuel Ardaz Torres, and then on the letters we have Amal Desai, and the Team of Superheroes logo Sarah Christmas, and Michelle Nexus logo Shireen Dooling. But the art team, they killed it. Like I loved how that all came together. So and I think it's a good way for people to kind of be brought into this world and to see the team dynamic of how everybody works together. Like the banter, the joking, play. And it was, so I had fun with this. I had fun with this.
No, it definitely seems like it does. And I actually like that it has almost like this VR, dare I say, almost holodeck-esque.
I mean, Trek all day.
Look, dude, if there's one thing I know, it's sliders and Trek, and Trek is going to make some type of appearance, and I'm not mad at you. I'm not. No, but I love the fact, and I love that was their downtime to do it, because like I said, when she was asking, about the team, she wanted to make sure that they were rested and everything. Like she even like they were having a meeting, and she was like, "Okay, well, let's cut the meeting now, so you all get your rest.
Exactly.
You got a big day ahead."
Yep.
So knowing that this is how they get their downtime actually is very fun, because this is kind of like how playing, because I've had this in video games where people are playing, like, a group of friends are playing together, and you go with the hardest thing. They're like, wait, I was just trying to chill. I wasn't trying to actually, I wasn't actually trying to like grind and like, work for stuff. I'm just trying to, just get, just some relaxing time. So I love that fact.
Yeah.
The fact that there's a lot of thought process put into the story, to have little details like that are things that you don't really think about. And to see how they're working together lets you know that when they're actually in the real world, like out of the VR, and they're actually doing what they have to do as far as making the world a better place for everything, that's how they're going to work together as well as a team. So it shows not just in the VR where we're, doing superheroics, like you were saying, or in this fantasy world, but when we're actually, doing what we do best.
Yeah.
We're going to work together as a team. So I love those little things like that. Like little details are what make it so great and just make it really important to say. And I truly appreciate that.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
And yeah, the art is absolutely beautiful. I love how bold and colorful it is.
Yes.
And how it feels like, again, I have to keep saying, like that Saturday morning cartoon feel. Like it feels like, because it's almost like you're getting like like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of feel with the fantasy.
Yep.
Which is a Saturday morning cartoon I grew up with. Then you go down and you're getting your superheroics, which could have been anything.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, I'll go with Ultra Force. Why don't I go with something that nobody knows about? Ultra Force from Malibu Comics. That was the feeling of it. And I loved it. And even when they were bantering, like, well, you call yourself the Ideal,
right?
Which is probably next to Mr. Fantastic. I think those are the two most arrogant names I think I could ever possibly hear. When your teammate is called the Thing, and you're like, well, I'm gonna call myself Mr. Fantastic. I don't know what you're doing, bro. Like, and so I love the moments like that to just make it even better.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you that she is a deserving of the title. Like I was, one of the things that I got hyped about or excited was just the backgrounds of each of the people that are on the team, and it's cool to kind of, I would say, sometimes be in the presence of people who are like 10 times more intelligent than you, but also that, because within the organization, with what I've seen with Team Superheroes, is that you want these people to be at the forefront of teaching or educating the next generation. So that's why like I said, I appreciate working with the team, and like I have to pick their brains for like the science part of things, so we can make sure that things are well represented on the page when I write the script, when I write the story. And it's cool to be working with a group of talented folks, like I said, within their respective fields. And yeah, but and hopefully that's how they come off within the book.
I definitely do. And if you do want to get it, it's actually available on Amazon, in print and also digital on any Kindle device, or you can any device where you can download the Kindle app, obviously. So it's available for you there. What was the difference as far as like a writer creative question? How was the difference between creating your own characters, but then having these real life characters that you can actually pull details from and kind of craft this comic book version of them?
You can it's because I think this is the first. Like, this is the first for the client work that I've done over the years. So it was new, but the difference being is that you can actually go and speak to these people. Otherwise I'm like having conversations in my head about stuff, because like one person is talking to the other, or I'm talking to the person that I'm trying to create. But you're actually interacting with these folks, to like I said, to pick their brains about their respective careers and how they want that represented within the story that I'm building. But then also, you want to make sure that you're getting them right. So there's that thing of like, you want to be respectful, to represent them in the best light, to represent them as how they want to be, represented. And so yeah, just like source of information, making sure that they're represented well, and I'm not talking to like an imaginary person. So I think that's kind of where it's different, as far as with writing an established character or somebody based on somebody versus, writing something, creating a character from scratch, or working with a character that is, not an actual person, so.
Yeah, because that was interesting to see, like knowing that they're actually, now that I'm thinking about it, they're actually real. I'm like, oh, okay, so you can actually pull details from them, like you were saying,
Yeah.
and then portray them. But then have your own characters where you can just do whatever. It is easier to actually say, how would you do this, or what's the difference between these two things? But hearing it from their actual point of view. So you get that little bit of that. That's actually a very interesting thing. And this is the first time that you've done that from someone who's actual real person, right?
Yeah, I think the closest project, and even with that one, we created a cast of characters, was when I worked on that. There was an animated webcomic that I worked on a series with Terminus Media. It was myself and a few other writers, and we wrote I want to say it was like 6 parts, and unfortunately you can't find them online, which kind of is like blah. But we worked with the CDC to create a character which raised awareness about STD and HIV prevention and awareness. But we like I said, we created the characters, we created the worlds, but we were pulling from like the actual research and the testimonials of people that the CDC had spoken to and interviewed, and we tried to bring that into like a slice of life teen drama. But that's the closest thing that I've done in terms of client work, to something like this, where we're focused on that field of like science and medicine. So,
which is very, I mean, I forgot that you had done that as well. Yes, that's where Robert's out here trying to educate us in every possible way, folks. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is real. This is like, we need more of this, because we're not getting a lot of stuff that we should be getting. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Especially now, but yeah.
But this is, like I said, I read this. I had a great time with this team. whether it was in the VR system or
Mhm.
the actual or out of it, like the actual real world, and seeing what they're doing and how they're working together. But then you're also going to get this foil for them, who is a former protege,
Mhm.
who used to be a part of the Nexus, and then
Yeah.
is doing their own thing. I love that feel of that person who was part of it. And like, give me like that kind of like Rita Repulsa, that kind of villain that is nefarious, but then you kind of laugh now because like they're not gonna win, but there's still that conflict there, and I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And knowing that they're not just doing the good, you know, as far as like being superheroes, but they're real life superheroes doing these incredible things for everyone, and I
Yeah.
love that feel to it. This was a great read, Robert. I had a lot of fun with
Mhm.
this.
Thank you.
Phenomenal work by the team, and phenomenal work capturing the essence of these real people and making them immortalized
Yeah. I,
here, and and hopefully inspiring more scientists and astronauts and everyone in the STEAM fields.
yeah. That's the hope. I think that's the biggest thing that we want to,
Mhm.
to happen. So if a comic book can do that, then I was about to say I can die happy. Oh God, I don't want to die. I mean, I can.
Well,
It's like, yeah, I'll be. That was like the first phrase. I was like, nah, I'll be happy that that
I
happens.
mean,
So
I do want you to die happy, but decades, decades,
decades down the line.
centuries, hopefully, if these STEAM if these STEAM geniuses have anything to do with it, hopefully centuries later, get some get some of that nanotech in you, you
Cryogenics.
know, get that going centuries later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was a great read. Absolutely
Mhm.
loved it. And like I said, phenomenal job by you, your team, and these incredible people that they're actually based off of. I
Thank
had
you.
had so much fun, and in a way when we don't have a lot of stuff that's fun sometimes to read. This was fun, but then also educational because they were using. I mean, it was like when I started seeing like astrophysics, and like I was like,
Mhm.
okay, so now let me hunch into this. Let me really get into this because I don't
Yeah.
want to miss anything because they're coming up with some real deal stuff, and I love that. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. So Robert, we have talked about this, but I want to talk to you about uh, a couple other things. I want to
Yeah.
know what you're getting into right now. Like, what are you writing? You're doing all these incredible things. You are creating. You are creating comic books that are based off of these real life, larger than life characters who are trying to save us from the world, literally. You're doing creative things, but what are you taking in right now? What are you reading? What are you playing? What is, as we just talked about in the book, what are you taking in to take the edge off of everyday stuff?
So as far as let's say video games, so that's one way. Like the weekend late nights, that's when I'm teaming up with folks to run stuff. um South of Midnight, actually that's more the single player. Like
Yes.
I am taking my time with that one because it's something special. So South of Midnight, and it's a really, really good game. And now I'm also running through Gears 4. Yeah, with a friend, doing another
Hmm.
run through of that. That's the shoot 'em up game when you want to
So,
chill. Yeah, and it actually now about to jump back into Space Marines 2 with a friend who hadn't
oh,
run it before. So as far as like when I'm playing, those are the big games. As far as what I'm watching, uh, Moonrise, Andor season 2. Yeah, I got to stay in space. Uh, space adjacent. I'm doing a first time rewatch of Sequest, which strangely enough is
oh,
like the most Star Trek show. It's like the Orville. It's and it's a really
hmm.
really good like it's weird to call this retro because it was in the 90s, but it's definitely worth checking out. And I'm also to like Lazarus and Ianu, so I'm still kind of following, finishing those up. And as far as reading, I don't know if the suggestion came from you or Takia, but I went back to finish up the trade for the first volume of Dark Knights of Steel, um, which
Yes.
is
Awesome.
it is amazing. Tom Taylor is a beast. Like that's a really Elseworldsy. I know it doesn't have the title of Elseworlds, but it's like an Elseworldsy type of book, which I
It
recommend
like
people
they
check
said
out.
that it was like their Elseworlds because they have two other
Okay.
series that are like spinoffs of. There's one for Green Lantern
Ooh.
and there's
Okay.
one for Deathstroke.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
And that series caught me off guard because I was like, oh, it's just going to be like a regular, and
Right.
it's a 12
Right.
issue series, so it's for a year. But I
Mhm,
was reading it and I was hooked. I was
mhm.
like, oh, it
Yeah.
just yeah. There's actually there's three spinoffs
Okay.
because there's one for Green Lantern, there's one for Deathstroke, and then there's one that's like them when they were younger.
Okay. Okay.
Clark, Cal, and I can't remember who the third character might be. Diane, so it might be like the Holy Trinity, but when
Yeah.
they were younger, but it's set in that
In that world.
world.
Okay.
Yeah, that one was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I was hooked on it. I was like, oh, I was religiously when it would come out, I was like, bet I got to read this right then and there. It was just hitting me.
I love it. Yeah, that one on the comic book side of things I'm reading, and the novel that I just finished up, I had to find the name of it. The Sleepers War, Alpha Wave. Um, it's like it's just a really good space opera and something that I needed to kind of jump into. But and it's co-written by one of my favorite writers, Jonathan Mayberry, who actually had a really good run on Black Panther. Actually, some of the elements of Wakanda Forever were pulled from his run of the book of Black Panther. So, but yeah, that's what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm playing. So
Well, I just looked up Sleeper Wars. This is going on my list. Thank you.
there you go.
Um,
Awesome.
Not ashamed to be like, yeah, I just looked that up right now. I'm just gonna put that right on my list, brother. That's it. Yeah, I mean, those are solid things. Like Sequest was one that I was watching off and on for a
Yeah.
while because I know there's Sequest and there's like a Sequest 2040 or so. I can't remember the name of it.
2032 or something like that.
2032. Okay. Oh, so actually not that far away. Damn. Okay. Wow. Like
Yeah.
legitimately that year. And I remember, yeah, that was like it was like a Star Trek, but like underwater. Because if
Yep.
you think about it, the ocean and the depths of it, we
Mhm.
haven't even scratched the surface, no pun intended, of what's down there.
Exactly.
And that's way scarier to me than space.
Hmm.
Because when you see some of the stuff that's in there, you're like, nope,
Man.
nope. And there's
No.
things we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, and I don't want to. It's just like
Exactly.
I
Nope.
don't want to.
Nope. You're not
Yeah.
going to catch me in a submarine doing dumb stuff.
Nope.
Anyway, there happen to be two documentaries about that too. There's one on Max, and I think there's one coming up on Netflix.
Oh, the yeah.
Yeah.
I told my wife like I thought it was very interesting that I started watching Sequest when that's about to premiere. Like,
I
yo,
didn't even think about that. Yeah, I didn't.
yeah, it was weird, but yeah, good show, and it holds up. Like it definitely feels like
Yeah,
90s, but I think like if you want to watch a Star Trek adjacent show, like I always suggest the Orville to people
yeah.
and like Galaxy Quest, but Sequest is definitely like one if you need a Trek fix, but you don't want to watch Trek just, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't want to do that, but something to
Opposite.
watch in tandem with it. So
Yeah, that was one that there was another one around that same era. I think it was no, this was actually years later that had my interest, but I think it only lasted one season. Was
mhm.
Earth 2.
Yeah. I remember that one.
That was one. Yeah, that was Sequest was cool because first off, I got to watch Roy Schneider every week,
Yep. Hmm.
and I mean, that dude was just that. I mean,
Talented.
like one of the best, like one of my favorites too. I watched 52 Pickup. I don't know how many times,
Yeah.
but then you
Hmm.
got Jonathan Brandis on there,
Yeah. Yep.
who tragically died young,
Yeah. Yeah.
but was so integral to that show.
And he was
And
good.
then randomly they had Peter the DeLuise, who was Dom DeLuise's son.
Oh, that's okay. I did not know that. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
and he has a younger brother, I want to say, who's also an actor, but I don't know if he's still acting now.
yeah.
He was in Wayne's World.
Okay, yeah, I know. I know the guy now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so seeing him even on there, and if you kind of look at his depiction of the character, could almost even though he was like, I want to say he was more of like an alien character,
Hmm.
I believe, you
Yeah.
could look at him and his portrayal was almost neurodivergent
Yeah.
of how we
Yeah.
would look at like characters now and how they would interpret things and such like. So I love those nuances. So that was, yeah, that show was, I mean, no pun intended, but that show was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
and we'll discover, because I would love a show like that where they actually did go
Mhm.
into the sea, but now with obviously our news
With our
special
technology.
effects and everything,
Yeah,
obviously. But that would be a great, or even like a continuation of that series
that would be amazing. That would be
would be
amazing.
awesome. But that's a good pick too, and a good fun, because I don't think a lot of people give that one enough credit. They really
I
don't.
know. Yeah, yeah.
They don't. That cast was amazing. The concept was awesome. I mean, they had like a genius dolphin. Come on.
Well, and that doesn't be, and that's not cheesy. Like it's
No.
weird because I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, maybe some things are dated, and it doesn't feel
Yeah.
dated. And the other thing that gets me are the sets. Like when you see the
Yeah.
set for Sequest and then the various like underwater settlements that they were going to, you could tell that NBC Universal were putting money behind this. And I know that
Mhm.
Steven Spielberg was one of the um, executive producers, and I don't know if he was a creator, but I know he was like big. So the show had money, So
Mhm.
I would love for it to come back, even if it was just for like 10 episodes or something, like a
Yeah.
streaming series.
Like
So
similar to how they had Babylon 5 come back for a little bit, which is another one that you could
yeah,
have that's
hmm
adjacent. That one was Deep
yeah.
Space Nine before Deep Space Nine, honestly.
Well, so there's this. Yeah, I won't
That
go
was
into the
wild.
story, but like it's some people say it's too adjacent to Deep Space Nine. There's now
Yeah.
people have said that Deep Space Nine took from Babylon 5 and or whatever. So there it's kind of weird. And I don't kind of give that too much thought, but it is that thing. Like, so when you said that, it was just like, yeah, they very much do align.
Yeah.
But
They
yeah.
do, but I feel like Deep Space Nine is more Western.
Yep.
Like it definitely
Yeah.
was new sheriff in town, and
Mhm.
because who else is out here slapping Q? Like I know we can't boil down Cisco to just slapping Q, but who
Yeah.
else was doing that?
Nobody.
Picard was like Q, and he was trying to actually have conversation with. So I do love the fact that they had two different perspectives of it. He tried to outfox him and reason with him, and they were
Mhm.
pitting their brains against each other, which I did love
Yeah.
continuously, because Q had a fondness for Picard, because
Yeah.
he was one of the only humans who like could do that with him, and he loved it ever since that first episode. And even with the way they dovetailed that series back, I've actually started rewatching it. I've actually started at the beginning, because I love that series so much. It's
Nice.
incredible. Um, Doing that and how they dovetail it back to the beginning was actually pretty genius. But the fact that he was there and he was like the new sheriff in town, and he had to clean this whole thing up while dealing
Mhm.
with all these different races of aliens and also different religions, different
Yep.
ideologies. There was a lot going on, and then having the wormhole right there, not knowing what could come out of that damn thing.
Yep.
There was so much to mine there. And Babylon 5, it had similarities. Yeah, I mean, you could look at Superman and um Sentry,
Yeah.
similar power sets like that, different personalities and such like that as
Mm-hmm.
well. Babylon 5 was, yeah, it was kind of this like just wild ass cast characters put together, and how they dealt with it, and having different leaders and everything like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
obviously, but there is a difference.
Yeah.
Both are great in their own rights too.
Hmm.
But yeah, having something for Deep Space. Excuse me, I'm thinking about Deep Space Nine. Now you got me thinking about it now. Damn, Cisco was not to be played with though. Single black father, hell yeah, my man was like, look, I ain't got time because I gotta raise this boy. I'm gonna slap the hell out
I
of you.
said I
You
got
get out of
hands
here.
today. I got
That's it.
hands for a god.
That's it. And then for him to be with Penny, which just
Yes.
I
Yeah.
always love her and stuff. And she's all just seeing yeah, that show is based on black love. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
That's to see that, and just to watch that
It was
when they're sitting there watching the ship explode,
beautiful. Hmm.
and then his interactions with Picard, knowing that he was Borg that's
Yeah.
some damn storytelling for your ass right there, man.
Solid.
That's
Solid storytelling.
damn. I got you. This is why I love having these conversations with
Yeah.
Robert, or thinking about these things, because Robert is such a one of the things I learned from you is world building. And
Hmm.
I hadn't really paid attention to that, but there was a period where you were saying world building a lot, and I was actually looking at things, and I was like, wait, so how does this? And I would watch the things that you would say, that's great world building, and I would go, let me go back and rewatch that, but let me see it the way Robert's talking about it.
Hmm.
And one of the things you said about it was John Wick, and I made the joke about, this all started with
Yeah.
his dog being killed, and
Hmm.
now he's in the desert He's missing a
Yeah.
finger.
Mhm.
I'm like, how did we get here? And all the building blocks of there, that world building. So when I look at something like that, and I started learning more and more about storytelling and the premises and how you link A to Z,
Mhm.
even before you've gotten to B, C, D, all of those, and I was like, oh, that's the links and everything. I learned that from you. Like, you were one of the people who taught me that without even teaching it,
Wow.
because I looked at that and it made me, and it enriches everything more when I see that. Like, you can watch something surf level, is great, but when you had those words, and I was like, I love what Robert does when he writes, so let me go look at what he loves
Amen.
so I can get a better idea. And seeing that, and I was like, all right, that's what Robert's. I felt like I was sitting at the window with like a Virginia Slim taking a long strag, like,
See, I'm trying to remember now, man. But yeah, yeah.
dude, there were so many things that you were dropping at a certain point, and I was like, okay,
Okay.
let me go back and watch this. So
Mhm.
when you say something like, you got me onto Moonrise, because
Mhm.
I didn't think Moonrise was going to be what it was,
Yeah, yeah,
and then because it came out at a bad time because it was with Devil May Cry,
yeah.
and Devil May Cry got all that shine.
Hmm.
Although Moonrise is a much better and deeper story. And I said,
Hmm.
well, yeah, Moonrise, because you mentioned one. So I was like, oh, Moonrise, let me go check it. First episode, less than a minute in, I said, hold up, y'all got to slow down. What the hold up, y'all got to slow down. And that's what made me go, yeah. And I'm looking at it the way you might look at it as far as storytelling, and
Hmm.
where it's kind of slow and it can drag a little bit, but then there's this uptick all of a sudden.
Hmm.
I learned how to really watch something and pay attention to that from you. So
Yeah.
when you write something, when you watch something, I pay attention to what you write, because I love the way you write. I talked about Mind to Avenge? Have I talked about Changa? Have I talked about these things that you put in there and you give it? So stuff like that is great, and it makes it even deeper. So I always appreciate your opinion on whatever it is, whether it's a game, and the fact that you say that I'm taking my time makes me go, oh,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
means something. So I always appreciate it. So I want to say thank you about that, man. Seriously,
Thank
thank
you, man.
you. Enriched how I take things in, and you help me to think more analytically
Thank
about what I'm looking at, so I can give a better breakdown of something if I'm going to break it down. Whether it's a comic or TV show, whatever movie, you were part of that process. So I want to say thank you for that. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I
Yeah,
just I love storytelling,
yeah,
and I think that once you kind of appreciate that side of things, you can enjoy things all the more. I mean, you can enjoy things regardless, but I think when you kind of see how I say the sausage is made, it's fun for me to sit and listen to a podcast about writing. It is fun for me to read a screenplay, or
yes. I
a
remember you
script
saying
book.
that. Yep.
Yeah, like a script book. And shout out to John Scooter Robinson, who has a
Yes, yes.
excellent writing podcast where he talks to novelists, comic book writers. I don't know if he said screenplay writers, but I know he's had like some really talented folks on there. Scarrets. That's that's his name.
Mm.
But yeah, I love learning about writing. So it honestly never stops. I have stacks of books on writing here, whether it's animation, whether it's film, whether it's comic books. Um, and I think every writer should try to do that as much as possible, in addition to, taking in the media that we do, but look at it from a perspective of, I turn subtitles on because I love to kind of see how the dialogue works. Also
Oh,
that's kind of where I'm at. Also, the hearing is kind of weird sometimes, but I find that when you watch stuff with the subtitles, it helps me at least to have an appreciation for the story that's being told, or like sometimes it's the dialect, sometimes it's the rhythm or the cadence of how people talk. Like, people talk differently in a Tarantino movie versus how they talk in um I don't know, like a James Cameron, type of movie. That's the
yeah.
first thing that comes to mind. Or like, things are done differently. Like if we just use superheroes, how we talked about this in Marvel Studios. There a lot of those movies are joke heavy. They are comedy. There's a small undercurrent of comedy there, and that's how a lot of them are written. Not all of them, but you compare that to like when Snyder was doing like the Snyderverse movies,
Mhm.
and that wasn't there, because they were dealing with a different tone or trying to tell a different story. And then so that's why it's kind of jarring when you see like Joss Whedon come in and do the Justice League, and it's like quips every few minutes, and you're like, okay, like love it or hate it. That wasn't established in the Snyderverse. There were some jokes, established every now and then, but then Whedon, we knew what he was doing. That's how he would write. In addition to his back down past with Buffy and Angel or whatever. So I like to study stuff and when it comes to writing, and hopefully learn from it and apply what I've learned to the page, and just kind of grow and develop. I'm definitely, I always say I'm a different writer than when I started working at the Atlanta Voice newspaper. Like I'm in a variety of ways, and in some ways I'm similar, but the hope is that you grow, with with what you're doing, as a creative, as a creator. So
yeah, it's like you want to be able to evolve. If you're in the same place that you were 10 years ago, and you're trying to be better at it, or to make a career out of whatever it is, that's kind of stagnant. You have to grow, you have to evolve, you have to try something different, do something different. Try something and fail.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll learn something from it, and it's different. All right, real quick, I'm going to ask you this lightning round question. The entire comic book industry, who's someone that you would love to work with? Artist, writer, editor, whoever.
Artist, it's okay. So I'm going to cheat.
Go ahead, there are no wrong answers.
No. I'm gonna say this. There are two artists that I would love to. There are three artists actually that I would love to. And I'm being selfish. I'm sorry. I'm giving shine time to my artists. But I want to work with Sean Hill, Takia Marie, and Matteo Illuminati on a Big Two book. Like, so those are the people that I know. If there was one person aside from the folks that I know, Dan Mora, and I'm trying to remember this. Hold on, I can tell you right now.
Dan Mora that's dastardly right there.
Yeah, Dan Mora, and the artist that worked with Scott Snyder on his Justice League run. And this is gonna frustrate me because I follow this guy, but I just had a brain freeze.
Not Capullo, is it?
No, not Capullo. He's
that was on Batman. Excuse me, that was Batman. I believe they worked on together. But the names you already set off are heavy hitters. And they're all names. Like every name you said, I was like, yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, there's not a bad name in there.
Jorge Jimenez.
Okay.
Jorge Jimenez. So Dan Mora and Jorge Jimenez and Jamal Campbell. Those would be the three working in the industry right now. That if I could just get an 8-pager in front of them, I'd be fine with that. But those are the three. Three that I've worked with and the three that I haven't worked with. So I know I like way cheated with that, but that's I got a list, dude. I got a list.
Those weren't bad names. Takia Marie is absolutely just incredible. Also one of the best people possible.
Yep.
And the love and the passion and just the detail she puts into her art is always there. Sean Hill, I don't know what else I got to say about that cat.
Yeah,
Route 3, day one.
Yep.
Day one of Route 3. That's all I gotta say. Day one of Route 3. I already mentioned Mind to Avenge.
Yeah.
So I don't even need to even elaborate on how I feel about Illuminati. Wait, is that his actual last name? Is Illuminati?
That's how I know him by. So that's.
I just realized right now. I'm like, wait, does he have ties to? You know what? I don't even want to go down that road. I don't even want no part of that. What have you? But then to say Yeah, the other names, Campbell. I just finished issue 4
Zatanna.
of Zatanna. Yeah, which he's
Yeah,
writing and doing the art for,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
beautiful seeing his art
Hmm.
continuously all the way through a book from cover to. It's just it's
It's
a treat.
amazing.
It's literally a treat. Those are immense. Those names are absolutely incredible. I would love to see you work with Illuminati on a Voltron book, but not the lions, the vehicles.
Okay.
Every guest I have on, I'm saying I'm speaking it into existence of a book I think we great on. Damian Becton was on. I said I'd love, because of Catabasis, which I love, I'd
Hmm.
love to see him on a Spawn book, but an
Ooh,
original character,
yeah, yeah.
because Catabasis does such a great job with action, horror, fantasy, like that whole
Hmm.
mix. And so I would love to see you doing a Spawn, like in that Spawn universe, because this is blown up in the last
Yeah,
5 years or so. It's
yeah.
huge, and I'm reading I think 2 books out of it now, and there are more coming out.
I know Joe Illidge is doing one, right?
His
Yeah,
looks ridiculous. I'm mad at how good that looks. I'm
yeah.
gonna read it with the face like, yeah, yeah, it's good. All right, whatever. It's good. Like I'm gonna have that Fred Sanford face when I'm reading it because it's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
But there's so much out there. So I'm gonna say, I'm speaking into existence. I would love to see you on a Voltron book, but with the vehicles,
Hmm.
because they were always out in space
Okay, okay.
with Mateo.
Yeah.
And I want to have every one of them is going to have a variant by Takia Marie. Every issue is I'm speaking this into existence. I don't care. We got to say stuff out loud. So I want to say, oh,
Oh man,
speaking of
dude, dude.
Dedrin,
Yeah,
Dedrin.
it's and that's big coming from Dedrin because like Dedrin is a, I'd say, a titan, in our industry and also within the STEAM side of things with
Yeah.
technology, continuing discussions about AI, but also video gaming.
One of the people on the forefront of tech in our community,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
There's never an event where if something plugs in, I expect Dedrin to be there.
Dedrick will be there
I
like
bet. I
World
don't
Cup.
go. I don't care what it is. That if it
Yeah,
plugs in and it's tech, Dedrick will be there. And he's at the forefront of it.
yeah.
I'm telling you, this man. And I don't even want to talk about Soul Nebula. I don't even want to talk about that. That book still has me messed up. I still think about the beginning. I was mad when I had to stop in the beginning. I was like, these mother. I was mad, but that's when I knew that it hit my heart.
I told you space opera. Like he pitched the world to me, and I was just like, okay, let's. I mean, that's my bread and butter. Like
So to
that's my
have
bread and
something
butter.
like that, and that was
Yeah.
also Illuminati, correct?
That, yeah, like I told you, like Mateo's my Italian brother from another mother.
This is
We
I think y'all are like Kugler and Jordan right now. Like that's like I love seeing combos between people like that. I also want to see you and Takia. Like I want to see y'all do like 3 or 4 books together. Seriously.
Yeah, I would say like I've been blessed with to work with the the talent that I've been able to work with, but it's been like some of these relationships have been very symbiotic.
Hmm.
I write for a living, symbiotic. But with those three that I named, with like Sean, Takia, and Mateo, it just works.
Yeah.
Like we work to each other's strengths, and um, they have made me a better writer. Just
Wow.
being honest with you, but yeah, Mateo, and you saw those like panels that we dropped for like the young adult graphic novel or the young adult space opera.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that's Mateo and I are going to continue to cook. Taki and I will continue to cook, and Sean don't know it, but I'm gonna hit him up for like some more Route 3 stuff. So like,
He don't
put
know,
it.
but he's gonna be in the kitchen cooking. I was like,
Nah,
what?
yeah, he'll be like if I can get on the schedule, like like
No.
but yeah, it. But all that saying, we went back. We were talking about the growth aspect of things. Seeing
Hmm.
all three of them just continue to rise
Yes.
has been amazing in
Yes.
their respective, their pursuits and client work and personal projects. So it's a blessing to work with people like them, with Dedrin. Shout out to Jason Reeves, 133 Art. Shout
Oh,
out to TJ Sterling. Um, Everybody that I've worked with, it's been a blessing. So I'm gonna continue to do it as much as possible.
It's like you said, it's beautiful seeing everybody evolve, everybody
Yeah,
adapt, everybody learn new things too, which makes them better at their core stuff. But then they're branching out into other things and just learning
exactly.
new skill sets too, which is beautiful. I love seeing it. Like I said, I love the Black geek culture community,
Hmm.
and I love everything that's going on in here. Seeing everyone just prosper and grow and not just survive but thrive is the
Hmm.
goal. And I love seeing it. And I'm gonna keep talking to y'all, and I'm gonna keep having y'all on for as long as I can. And just doing this because I love hearing your mindsets, seeing what you're doing. I get excited by the work I see sometimes. I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, and then when it's out, I'm like, okay, but yeah, I want to check it out, I want to read it, I want to listen to it, watch whatever it is y'all got going on.
Thank
And I
you.
love that. So seriously, so everybody, look, I don't know why I was about to say head, but put your hands together. I don't know why they came out like this. Like I was gonna do a slow clap. I don't know why. I just say I was just feeling something right. That's Friday. I wish I had a fish fry, but I don't. So I guess I just
Oh
put my
my
hands together like
God.
that,
Some hot sauce, mustard, and some
bro.
whiting. Shit.
Why is that white piece of bread on the bottom? I don't want that white bread. I don't want
I
that
just want
Wonder
the
Bread on the
fish.
bottom. Get that out of here.
I
Get that
just
out of here.
I just want the fish.
I just why is it? But I think they always had the bread there in case of the bone.
I mean, yeah, but what's that gonna catch? I mean, like,
I don't know. I guess it was to stop it because I remember as a kid they would say, "Well, eat like Wonder Bread with it." So if you get a bone in there, I was like, "Well, first off, I'm a kid. Why don't you take the bone out? Why do I have to
why?
wait until I'm choking for y'all to do it?" I don't understand that. But yeah, just do
Oh,
yeah.
shout out to
That would
M
be
Shy with Fuse.
M Shy. M Shy. Look, M Shy is another one who is coming
Yeah.
out here doing all these incredible things. I mean,
Mhm.
and for you to have, you know, your your story and then adapt it into a comic. That's the
Yep.
perfect thing I was saying. The new skill set, adapting,
Mhm.
and just learning more things. That's part of it. It's everybody's doing their thing, and I love it. I appreciate
Mhm.
it. And wait, I think I've had everybody that's on here. I've had on the show. I
You've
damn
had
it.
on the
That's
show,
wow.
yeah.
Yo, y'all are dashing. I love it, folks. It's Friday. I want you to relax, have a good night, put your feet up, and thank you so very much for being here and listening and watching here with Robert Jeffrey, one of the best people out there, one of the best creators out there, one of my favorite writers. Bottom line, hands down, he was one of my favorite writers before I knew him as a person. I was a fan of Route 3. Then I found out that he was in this group that I created on Facebook, and I was like, wait, what? And instantly, like that was it, man. And that was I think the first digital comic I ever read.
Wow.
I don't even remember what app it was because the app was janky as all hell. But we didn't have like like how we have it now. We don't. It wasn't like that. So, but it's one that I'll go back and read now, which I love.
There you go.
So, thank you so very much, Robert. Look, everything that you're gonna touch is just gonna get better and better, man. Honestly,
I hope.
you are
Thank
one of
you.
those people who I truly believe in and who I have faith in, and you are one of those voices. And M Shy knows how I feel about the word voice. It's not something that I use. We got a lot of talking heads. We
Mhm.
don't have a lot of voices, and you are one of them, truly.
Thank
Seriously,
you,
sir.
man.
All right.
Thank you.
Y'all have a very good night. Enjoy the rest of it. Drink some water, have some ice cream, enjoy yourself. Um, go and watch Cross on Prime. I don't know why I said that. It's random, but go watch that. Go watch something with brothers and sisters doing cool things.
Yeah.
Seriously. I love it. All right, y'all have a very good night.
Mhm.
Enjoy the rest of it. I will see you later. And as always, F Trump. That's it. That's all I got. That's it. That's all I got.